and welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I am going to be watching a Sam O'Nella Academy video. It's been a while. Glad to have Sam back with the channel. Glad to have him posted once again on the YouTube. Today's video is called Pliny Explains It All, the Historia Naturalis Abridged, books 1 and 2. I love me some Pliny the Elder. The man was wrong about basically everything, but you know what? I can respect what he was trying to do. He was trying to explain the natural world, and like he had medical cures. He had, this is what this animal does. This is what this is. Like he had so many cool things. He was trying his best, and he came up with some real weird stuff. But at least 2 of the cures involved drinking a lot of wine. So you know what? Not mad about Pliny the Elder in that case either. So I'm excited to see what Sam O'Nella is going to tell me about him, because mostly the experiences I have with Pliny the Elder, admittedly, are watching or listening to Sawbones. They bring him up a lot in Sawbones. He has a lot of historical cures that people tried. And then also I think he was mentioned in the Pompeii episode of Puppet History. So that is how I know about Pliny the Elder. That's where I'm at. Let us find out more about him. And I get the Clarissa Explains It All reference too. Just saying.
Hey persons of age. So
Hi.
long before the era of the wiki, there used to be these things called encyclopedias, where for a small fee of thousands of dollars, they would mail you a tiny fraction of the knowledge we have access to today, and you could put it on a shelf, and it would sit there and make you look learned. But while not reading an encyclopedia is easy, not creating one is much easier, and yet we do it. Encyclopedia Britannica is still in circulation today, and it's maintained by around 100 full-time editors and more than 4,000 contributors.
Wow.
So whose idea was this? Who was the first person to sit down and say, today I feel like writing down everything? To answer that, we must look nearly 2,000 years in the past, to the mid-70s AD. Pliny the Elder, author, philosopher, veteran, imperial administrator, and one curious buckaroo. Early in his life, Pliny's father took him to Rome to study law.
Pliny
Then,
the
as a young
eldest.
adult, he spent several years as a junior officer in the Roman military. His interest in literature made him a few high-ranking friends there, and when he came home, he took to writing. Unfortunately, a certain apocryphal fiddler was
Nero. And also all of the bones. I like this pile of bones Nero's fiddling on.
in charge at the time, who wasn't exactly kind to intellectuals. So Pliny kept it on the DL, mostly writing about things like grammar and rhetoric, which at the time few people found worth freaking out over. Fortunately, in June of 68, Nero finally took a hint and killed himself, and following the chaos of the Year of the Four Emperors, one Vespasian came out on top. Vespasian was a general and a friend of Pliny's, so when he became emperor, he promoted Pliny to procure.
I like his little... Okay, it's a throne, but it does look a little bit like a Santa hat.
Which was like the governor of a province. Suddenly, with this guy on the throne and a cushy job to pay the bills, Pliny found himself in a position to make complete use of his own potential. By day, he continued his administrative duties, but during nights, he wrote. And over the course of a few years, with nothing but his own wits and whatever authors he could get his hands on, he created a work known as the Historia Naturalis. This consisted of 37 books, each broken up into many dozens of chapters, covering just about every topic there is. While it wasn't quite an encyclopedia in the modern sense, it's still the earliest surviving attempt at an all-encompassing scholarly work, and it is a trip. I've been reading it. It is fascinating, not only as a reflection of what people did and did not know in the Roman Empire, but also as a reflection of Pliny himself, who is a character and who made zero attempt to hide it. So today, I come to you with a brief summary of the first part of a brief summary of all human knowledge according to one dude circa 77 AD. Now, the original thing makes for a fairly long read. Even removing most of the more uninteresting details, I've only managed to fit the first 2 books into today's video. As for the other 35, we'll see. I'm gonna let Pliny do the narration himself using my voice. He gets a lot of things shockingly right and a lot shockingly wrong. Rather than constantly chiming in with fact checks, I'm just gonna throw chess.com analysis icons in the corner.
I love that! That's such a clever idea!
I'll also provide relevant snippets of the actual text I'm paraphrasing just for reference. If you're one of the people who likes to pause the video just to see the funny ha-has I snuck into the freeze frame, rest assured there will be none today. You can just let it play.
Good to know. Thank you for telling me that, Sam. Also, bold of you to assume that I'm capable of just letting anything play. I am not. I am going to pause it however often I wish, but maybe less often than usual, because it's a 25-minute video and I am still sick, and I have several more videos to film today, and I'm dying.
One last warning, while there is a loose overall structure to this thing, it also seems like Pliny just kind of wrote whatever was in his head for a given chapter. He has a habit of jumping back and forth between completely disparate topics and going on weird personal tangents in between. I am presenting this thing in the exact order it's written, so if it at any point seems utterly scatterbrained, it's his fault, not mine. Anyway,
Blame him.
Take it away.
He's dead. He can't defend himself.
Yo.
Hey, Pliny.
Right, let me get right ahead of things. These books are strictly about this world and the things we can see around it. If you're one of those madmen who think there are other worlds beyond this one, give it a rest, alright? That's psychotic. You can't know these things, and you can't grasp infinity. Stop trying, you'll hurt yourself. So the heavens are a perfect sphere, and they spin around us perfectly. It takes 24 hours for them to do one spin, which is actually really fast because the universe is huge. In fact, massive objects all whooshing around us this fast should be incredibly loud at all times. Why?
All right, hold up. I need to go back and double check and see what the chess things are. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I just had to write down what the chess moves were really quick because I couldn't remember. I was like, check mark. Okay, so that's check mark is good, but it's not the best it could possibly be. So, in any case, I might pause a few times just to double check what his little marks are changing up here.
Heavens. Between the heavens and the earth, there are 7 other bodies to talk about. Highest up there, we got Saturn, then there's Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. The heavens spin to the right, all these guys spin to the left. Saturn is cold, Mars is hot, but Jupiter's just right. The Sun's orbit is made up of 360 degrees, 1 degree per day, except not quite. We have to add 5 1/4 days or else our sundials break.
So he was right about that. Okay, he got that good move.
Mercury, these guys are weird because they like to hang around the sun. Fun fact, Venus is actually bright enough to help out the sun and moon sometimes. When it's helping the sun, we call it Lucifer, the light bringer. And when it's helping the moon, we call it Vesper, the sleepy time guy.
Oh, that's so cool.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
I didn't know that when you can see Venus out in the daytime, it's Lucifer. I knew that Lucifer means light bringer. I did know that. But I didn't know that.
Mercury tries to do the same thing, but he's much more lame and cringe, so he can't. The moon's got phases, as you know, and she gets closer and farther away.
See note. What does note mean? Sam note. I originally thought this passage was referring to absolute elevation, but rereading it, he may have meant alt or as altitude, i.e. the moon being higher or lower in the sky rather than closer or farther from the earth. People certainly knew the moon's orbit was elliptical by Pliny's time, so I'm leaving it, but take it with a grain of salt.
At different times. And Daimion figured out lots of cool info about the moon's orbit, and you assholes bullied him for it. Yeah. This man unraveled the secrets of the universe, and in return, everyone goes, "Oh ho ho, he's in love with the moon." That's because humans are sick in the head. They'd rather read stories about bloodshed and massacres like that matters more than the fabric of reality. Get a clue. Anyway, the moon has phases because of the way it borrows light from the sun, which might be what these other guys do too. We don't know yet.
That's excellent. The little thumb mark is excellent.
Spots on it are actually puddles because it likes to draw up moisture from the earth, which is where we get the tides. And every now and then it casts its shadow on earth. We call these eclipses, and they are freaking wicked. Eclipses can happen the other way around too, and the way these happen prove that the moon is bigger than the earth and the sun's way bigger than both of them. Oh, and just so we're clear, eclipses are a natural thing. It's not the apocalypse or God's wrath. They follow rules. Even the Greeks could predict them. Settle down. Back to the...
I love that. Pliny being all up, guys... It's not magic. It's not. We've known about eclipses for a long time. Relax. I like the little star there. That's fun. It is fun to see the moon is huge and the sun is even bigger. It's I like watching the little clipper in the corner flash really quickly when it's super wrong and jumping back and forth. I like it. It's fun.
Planets, they're all kind of in the same belt up there, and they all get farther and closer to us at different points because their orbits are complicated. They mostly follow the same rules as each other, but there's some goofiness, like the ones further than the sun move the slowest when they're the farthest away from us, but the closer ones move the quickest then. We can chalk this up to the sun-emitting vapors that must push them around in weird ways. Thunderbolts come from Jupiter, and we don't know why. One theory is that it's because Saturn is very moist and Mars is very fiery, and when they meet in the middle, we get celestial fire thrown down down at us. Same reason a wet
Okay.
log crackles and throws off embers in a fire. There is a type of star that moves around and vanishes. We call these comets, and they come in all kinds of flavors.
Oh.
These might actually be omens. I mean, there have been some weird coincidences. Some people think comets are
Not
permanent,
quite.
and we only see them when they swing by the right way, while others say they're just flare-ups of celestial vapor that dissipate
Both
on
are
their
true,
own. Now to
yes.
talk about some real anomalies, things we've only rarely seen. The sun goes dim sometimes, like when Caesar got killed. Matter of fact, during the Civil War with Mark Antony, it stayed dim for like a year. Multiple suns have
Oh, we're in this like weird moment of no, what?
been seen at the same time on several occasions, but no more than 3. 3's the record. Same with moons. One time, a burning shield darted across the sky, throwing sparks as it went. Another time, someone saw a shooting star fly towards us until it was as big as the moon, and then it turned around and went back to being a normal comet. Side note, even the translator was like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Finally, there are the stars Castor and Pollux.
So
If
it
you
does
see
sound
both
like
of
a
them-
little bit every so often, like some of the people he was talking to were maybe a little high, and then like maybe a little bit too much of the good.
It's good luck, but be advised, if one's alone, he turns into a little bastard. He can and will come down and set your boat on fire. That's the
Okay.
celestial sphere taken care of. Now let's move down a peg to the air. The air ends way before the moon, and it mixes with water vapor to create the weather. The sun dries up water on the earth, it goes up and turns into clouds, and then
Okay.
it's pushed back down again by the star forces that keep stuff on earth. We get rain,
I mean, I didn't realize that we knew that from this early on, so that's pretty cool.
and inhale and such, and it keeps going round and round like some kind of water cycle. The seasons go around once a year, and we don't know exactly why, but it definitely has to do with the motion of the stars. Like some are wet or dry, hot or cold, and that influences the climate when they move. Especially Saturn, he always soaks the place going by. He's a freak, like, actually. I
Saturn's
almost
a
forgot the
dick.
dog star. This guy's nuts. It kindles the sun's vapors, and when it rises, the ocean gets upset, wine ferments, and stagnant waters are set in motion. And there's a creature called
Okay.
the Oryx in Egypt, and when the dog star goes up, they look at it and they sneeze out of worship. It also makes dogs go rabid, hence the name. But the stars and the seasons they create
Oh,
have
okay.
profound effects on nature, and it's not just the weather changes that
Alright.
do it. Some flora and fauna
Pliny.
have weird links to the heavens. Pelagium blooms right on the winter solstice, even when hung up to dry in the house. And heliotrope follows the sun, even when it's cloudy. The moon makes oysters bigger and ants lazier, and diseases in the eyes of livestock will grow and diminish based on its phase. That's just a few examples. Hey, let's
All right, it is kind of funny though. Like it's like just like to sort of try and figure out where he was pulling some of these things from. Like, and like maybe one or two of these things might have happened at that time, like, and there was a full moon or whatever, like I don't know. I don't like I feel like there's a lot of like oh my gosh, take a shot every time I say the word like in this video. As I said before, I'm sick and I'm kind of medicated, so I know that I'm a little bit out of it. Anyway. But I do feel it's similar to something like astrology or something where you write down, you have your horoscope and all the things happen and you're like, oh my goodness, this is true. And it's just super vague. So I feel that some of those things must have happened multiple times at around the same time, or at least multiple people described the phenomena for him to write it down. But it also feels a little bit like confirmation bias, is I think what I was trying to say there.
Let's talk about the winds. The ancient Greeks have published a lot of great observations about the winds. Those were warish, disconnected times, which makes their work all the more impressive. Nowadays, in this great peace, every shore of this sea welcomes Romans. And what are we doing? When's the last time we sent anybody out to investigate this world with inquiry in their heart? Plenty of expeditions, sure, but that's just because you got some shit to sell. Rather than pursue science that could benefit all of mankind, you're
Aw,
hawking
Pliny getting
olives in
mad.
Byzantium just to watch your abacus go up. Greed. But anyway, how many winds
Anyway,
are there?
let's talk
The
about
ancients
winds, actually.
recognized 4, but that's clearly not enough. The next generation overcorrected, brought it up to 12, and shit got messy and elegant. So today, us modern folk take the middle of the road with a nice even 8 total. 2 for each quarter of the heavens, and they've got a bunch of fun names. And yeah, if we wanted to add in the old reject winds, we could. And there's even a couple extra secret winds only recognized by a
extra
select
secret
few.
winds.
Plus, there's certain winds that only blow in certain regions.
Extra secret winds coming out someone's ass, if you know what I mean.
regions of the world,
funny,
but
it's not
you know,
funny.
broad
Don't-
strokes,
I'm
it'll do you
sorry.
fine. These winds each blow at their various allotted times of the year, and the winter ones make for particularly rough seas. In former times, pirates were compelled, by the fear of death, to rush into death and to brave the winter ocean. Now we are driven to it by avarice. Direction isn't the only difference between the winds, though. They can all be characterized by their temperature, their moisture, and the kind of weather they tend to bring. Volturnus
This
is
whole thing, all the wind stuff is wrong. I love that. It's like no, Pliny.
dry, Septentria brings snow and hail, Auster is sultry, Aquilo is the most healthy, real motley crew, those winds. But
Never
while
heard of
those
any of
guys are
these.
generally pretty calm, we must also consider the sudden, violent gusts we call
I've like only heard of like Eurus and Borealis or Borealis or something like that.
storms. Storms are self-contained events that come in a few flavors themselves, like Eknephius, which brings thunder and lightning, or Typhon, which doesn't. Certain storms also give rise
And he's substituted storm for squall, but everywhere else Pliny's describing here seems distinct from storms as we think of them. I think he is referring to some more sudden, short-lived phenomenon. Squall fits better. We're splitting hairs. That not enough is not worth a re-record. It is worth a disclaimer, so I will also do the disclaimer.
to whirlwinds, which are these giant, loud pillars of wind and moisture that destroy everything in their path.
Oh,
They are so dense that they can
tornado.
actually support themselves on the ground, and if they happen over the sea, they suck up the water as they go. Thunderstorms produce
Okay.
lightning, and lightning is crazy. It has this unique
It is,
property
this is
where it
true.
can damage things on the inside while leaving the outside unharmed. It can empty casks of their wine without breaking the vessel itself, and it can melt gold and silver without burning the bag they're in. One time, a noblewoman named Marcia was struck by lightning while pregnant, and while the baby got fried, she herself survived without injury. Many people
Okay, so
believe that
the single was a mistake. Okay, the single question mark is a mistake. The double is a blunder. I'm trying to like figure that out. All right. I don't know. Maybe that might be true. I don't know. It's probably not.
that when lightning strikes a man, it can be used to predict his future, with terms and conditions, of course. Some historians also state that man is capable of invoking lightning. The author El Piso said that the ancient king
Yes.
Numa did it all the time. Then his
So Numa really was liked by Jupiter then, huh? Because I thought lightning came from Jupiter, according to Pliny. Which also is probably because they thought, Jupiter and Zeus were the same person, lightning god, blah, blah, blah.
successor, Tullus Hostilius, tried to imitate him, but he didn't do the ceremonies right, so he just got electrocuted. Is any of this true? Maybe. At the very least, I buy the fortune-telling thing. Now, we all know that we see lightning before we hear thunder. That's nothing special. It's just because light has a greater velocity than sound. It's the same event. Thunder's just the sound that lightning makes.
Okay. Cool. Really?
Just got electrocuted. Is any of this true? Maybe. At the very least, I buy the fortune-telling thing. Now, we all know that we see lightning before we hear thunder. That's nothing special. It's just because
Okay, so the double is yes, basically.
light has a greater velocity than sound. It's the same event. Thunder's just the sound that lightning makes.
I honestly did not know that. Like that, but that got like a best move.
fact, man is the only animal that isn't always killed by lightning. Any other creature, instant death
No.
every time, but we're special. Lightning can strike just about anything, except for laurels, seals, and eagles. They're all safe. It also never
Okay.
descends more than 5 feet into the ground, so if you're someone who's scared of lightning, your best bets are deep caves or a tent made out of seal skin. Besides all this,
What? I mean, deep cave, yeah, sure, makes sense. But like, sealskin? Why? Just don't go near a tree. How about
normal weather, we do have records of some real weird stuff falling from the sky. It has rained milk and blood on many occasions. One time it rained flesh, and the fallen meat that wasn't eaten by birds just didn't rot. You know, your casual immortal meat storm.
that? Magic, gotta love it. All hail the glow cloud. I will say, like, I've seen, like, people describing like red rains and stuff, and I think it's usually it's a rust thing, or there's like something else in the environment happening, like a smoky environment or something like that gives the rain weird colors. Like I feel like that can happen, and like, you know, there have been like rains of weird animals or whatever, but that's usually because there was like a water spout that like sucked up a bunch of fish or something, and then like spat it out on a nearby town is usually, I think, what happens there.
One time it rained wool, another time there was a shower of baked tiles. What a country, huh? Stones have been known to fall from the sky now and then. The Greeks like to brag about how the philosopher Anaxagoras correctly predicted such an event, but I find that dubious. We know a stone fell, it was like a wagon load big, but I think Anaxagoras just got lucky. I mean, the guy said it would fall out of the sun. What are you on about? The sun can't do a rock. It doesn't have rocks. Finally, rainbows are nothing special.
I keep forgetting that like a lot of this is still Pliny commenting. I love that Pliny seems like he was like a little ADHD. It's just like his little commentaries about like, oh my gosh, like absolute sun doesn't do rocks, dude. Get a grip.
We get them all the time. They don't predict the weather or anything else. They're just something that happens. Rays of sunlight hit a hollow cloud and they get refracted. And the colors are due to
Close.
a mixture of clouds, air, and fire. Let's come down from the air onto the earth. Good old
Finally.
Mother Earth.
Hello,
The
Earth.
three elements are bastards. You never know when they're gonna turn on you. Fire burns us, water pelts us as hail and floods our villages, air rages in squalls, but Earth, she's just hanging out. And what a bounty she has for us, giving us crops, flowers, medicinal plants. In her compassion, she even gave us poison, so when life sucks, we can kill ourselves quickly. And what
Great.
does man
Thanks,
do?
Earth.
Naturally, we take advantage of her kindness. We torture her for all the iron, timber, and stone she can bear, and then we use that iron to tear out her entrails in search of gems to put on our fingers. Do you know how many
okay.
hands have to be worked to the bone just to decorate one joint of another? Honestly, if hell existed, all this greedy digging would get us there. But,
Dang.
of course, whatever we take from her, we all pay
Pliny.
back in blood and bones eventually. World keeps turning. Just wish y'all weren't such ingrates about it. Anyway, as we said,
Dang,
the Earth is
Pliny.
a perfect sphere, except
Man was harsh.
for, mountains and valleys, but close enough. There's a question we get all the time when people first learn about this, particularly from the commoners. They'll go, right, if Earth's a ball, why don't people on the other side fall off? To that I say, why doesn't the whole thing fall down? Where would it go if it did? Up into the other sky? That doesn't make sense. No, the Earth is right where it belongs. Then they'll say, alright, fine, but why's the ocean flat then, Guess what? It's not. Here, take a glass of water, fill it to the brim, then drop a little something in there. See that slight, subtle curve? That's the ocean. You can see
I love Pliny, like flat earthers. Pliny's been schooling you from 77 AD.
it when a ship goes out to sea. The bottom bit will disappear over the horizon before the mast does, and so it goes all the way around. One time some Indians got blown off course by a storm and ended up in Germany. Side note, this was not the first nor the last time the translator started his annotation with this exact 11-syllable sigh of frustration. The ocean they must have crossed had to be massive, like half the globe. Real quick, let's think about how much of the world is even inhabitable. We got one hemisphere over here, which is divided into 5 zones, right? On the top and bottom, miserable, nothing but cold and darkness.
Fair.
In the middle, sun's too close, burns everything, miserable. So already we only got a fifth of the place to ourselves. Then take into account all the seas and mountains and wilderness and other crap in the way, there's barely anything left. And this is what every
So
war in
sad.
history has been over, this tiny portion of what amounts to a speck in the universe. Even if you conquered the world, you'd have barely started. And how much of it can you bring with you to the grave, huh? So the Earth is in the middle of the universe, and we know this because of the equinoxes. Day and night, perfectly balanced on these 2 dates. We're right in the middle. It just makes sense. There's plenty of other proof that we live on a globe. Certain stars can only be seen from different parts of the world, and that's because the Earth's in the way. Just ask a sailor, they'll see new stars squink their way out of the horizon as they go.
Squink. Oh my god. I kind of like that word. I kind of hate that word, but I also kind of like that word. They squink.
Also, eclipses show that the time of day depends on your east-west position. A few years back, the same eclipse of the sun, same exact event, was seen at 8 in Campania, but
Sam note. Oh no. Sam note. This one's tricky to rate since he gets the right answer based on a faulty model. Okay, so it's like right answer, but no. I don't know how. It's like that meme. He doesn't seem to know that eclipses are localized events that sweep across the Earth over time. Based on other eclipse data, this effect would only make an hour-ish difference in one direction or the other, not enough to explain the gap. So I think he's close enough to get a good, because this was 2,000 years ago, for Christ's sake.
a few years back, the same eclipse of the sun, same exact event, was seen at 8 in Campania, but at noon in Armenia.
I want to see his note.
At 8 in Campania, but at noon
I didn't realize that Pliny's hours work differently from ours until just now. Forgive my use of the word noon. The 12th hour here, by definition, is just the last 1/12 of daylight on a given day, right? Because they have changed how we do time.
In Armenia. Try explaining that one, planists. Here's another. One time, a courier.
Planists. Schooling them flat earthers in 77 AD.
Polonides ran from Sicyon to Elis, which is a distance of 1,200 stadia. The way there took him 9 hours, but then the return trip
Google Maps measurement is 800 stadia is 80 miles, so as the crow flies, but the actual path might have taken as long as stated. Okay.
took him 15. And it's not because he was tired or took a break somewhere. Brother, he
wasn't
ran
lazy.
against the sun. Likewise, the length of shadows on a given day depends on your latitude. In
And then he
Egypt,
died,
on the summer
right?
solstice at noon, their sundials cast a shadow half the length of the pointy bit, whereas in Venice, at the very same hour, the shadow's as long as the pointy bit. If you keep going south, eventually you'll reach a point where the sun's straight up at the solstice. We dug a well in a town called Syene just to check, and sure enough, it's light all the way down. If you go even further south, you'll notice the sun do that twice a year,
Cool
equal
test.
distances from the solstice. There's also a place in India where there just aren't shadows, ever, and as a consequence, the people there don't know what hours are. But because of the way the sun moves, you'll notice that the longest day of the year is longer the further north you go. In Alexandria, on the summer solstice, they get 14 hours of daylight. In Italy, it's 15, and in Britain, it's 17. Following this pattern, we believe that at the very North Pole, it's 24, meaning they get 6 months of daylight at a time, with 6 months of night on the other
He's pretty close on that. I mean, like, and the fact that they just had to guess that, that's pretty cool that he got that.
side. The difference in climate based on latitude is clearly reflected in the nations that live there. For one, the Ethiopians. Let's talk about earthquakes. The Babylonians used to blame these on the movements of the stars. One guy is even said to have predicted an earthquake through astrological means. Is that true? I'll let you be the judge. I, for one, believe that earthquakes are caused by the winds. Think about it.
Of course.
Before an earthquake, it's always very calm. The seas are tranquil. There's not a single bird in the sky. Why? No wind.
I hate to give it to you here. I hate to give him a blunder here because the reasoning is honestly genius. It just happens to not coincide with reality whatsoever. Yeah, he's just not right. Like it's like I get, but it's like it is interesting though when you can see where people are coming from. Like it's like we know things are differently now, but it's like that's why we say correlation does not equal causation. But it's like I see where you're coming from though. I get it. I do.
Wind. They can't fly. Where'd the wind go? Underground. It gets stuck down there and it builds up until finally hell literally breaks loose. It starts off with a horrible noise like cows mooing or people fighting in the distance. Then everything shakes hard. Whole city walls get knocked down and sometimes the earth opens up and swallows them entirely.
The one time that I experienced an earthquake, because I've never really lived in a place where earthquakes happened, except for much, because like I lived in freaking Baltimore and there was an earthquake there one time. So like that's the one earthquake I've experienced. Also the one tornado I've really experienced, because there's been tornadoes here since I've been here, but I haven't actually seen them. We've just had a bad storm where I was at. But anyway, point being, I thought it was a truck at first. Like when it actually started, like the sound that it made, I really did think that there was like a truck going down the street. Because that's what it sounded like to me.
The shaking is even noticed by people on ships who get hit by waves without any wind. Earthquakes also make well water turn cloudy and smelly. So the obvious question is, what the hell can we do about it? Well, places with a lot of natural caverns or man-made sewers tend to get fewer earthquakes. That's because the underground air has an easy way to escape. Buildings that are arched or that lean against each other also tend to fare better in the event of an earthquake. Barring all else, at least things are usually over with quickly. Although some earthquakes have been known to last days, months, even 1 or 2 years straight. As for
I mean, like, I feel like there are ones that there's just lots of earthquakes constantly, right? There is that like volcano that's been erupting for however long. But yeah, I feel like earthquakes are like 2 to 5 minutes long, right? They're not long.
Related anomalies, about a century and a half ago, 2 mountains slammed together and collapsed, and fire and smoke came from the ground where they stood. More recently, under Nero, there was a knight named Vectius Marcellus who woke up to find that his fields and olive grounds swapped places with each other. No mayhem or destruction, just, oh, this is over here now, okay? But just as Earth swallows up land in one place, she spits it back out elsewhere. As such, islands sometimes rise up spontaneously out of open sea. We have tons of records of these events across the Mediterranean. They're often accompanied by a giant fiery explosion and loads of dead fish floating everywhere.
I mean, probably, yeah. It's like this is the volcanoes or whatever, right? Like and then now there's a Now there's an island.
It's said that one time some people ate these fish, and then they too immediately died.
I mean,
but enough of tragedies.
That
Let's
could
turn
also
back-
make sense because, like, if the fish die from like sulfur poisonings and stuff, like, 'cause they, there's poison now in the water, which is why they die. They're not just superheated. They're like sulfur or something goes into the water. That could make sense that humans get poisoned and die.
Back to the wonders of the earth, such as there are many caverns filled with gas that instantly kills things. Some kill
Yes.
only birds, others kill everything but people, and still more kill everything and people.
And
In a
all
few
of that-
caves,
ooh,
those
wait.
who breathe the gas
Guys, because like, look, all of that was like marked correct.
fish floating out
Shut up.
people, and still more, and they too immediately died. But enough of tragedies. Let's turn back to the wonders of the earth, such as there are many caverns filled with gas that instantly
this is
kills
correct.
things. Some kill only birds,
Brilliant.
others kill everything but people, and still more kill everything and
All of that was true. So there are some. Okay, the author may refer to the well-known Grotto de Cana, which, in consequence of the Saturn of carbonic acid gas, which occupies the lower part of the cave only, well, dogs and other animals whose mouths are near the ground are instantly suffocated, but because it's so low, it's unlikely to kill humans. Interesting!
people. In a few caves, those who breathe the gas instead become intoxicated and start predicting the future, as is the case with the famous oracle at Delphi. We can ascribe these effects to the divine power of nature. I mean, what else could it be? How the hell do you explain that rationally? But while most islands are
Just
attached to the earth at the
pie.
bottom, there are a few that float. The Calamine Islands are not only moved by the wind, but the people on them
Maybe
can
not.
actually
Sam note, difficult to fact check this, as everything I can find about Calamine leads back to Pliny. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, as assume these were akin to more natural rafts than full-scale islands. Fair.
push them around with long poles to go wherever they want. There's another group of floating islands known as the Dancers, so called because they move to the beat of drums played on their
Okay.
surface. I've got a few more
Sure.
miscellaneous wonders here. Let me just rattle them off. In
Okay, let's
Harpassa,
go.
there's a giant rock that can be moved by one finger, but not by the force of the whole body. In Paracini, there's a type of dirt that heals all wounds. In Troas, there's a stone that makes dead
See, there's something though there. There could be something to be said a little bit there. Because the type of dirt that heals all wounds or whatever. But if you'll think about it though, there were the glowing wounds of the Civil War, right? Because people would be left out for a while, and sometimes certain bacterias would get into like the wounds, and the people that had the glowing wounds were more likely to live, and that's because the bacteria were eating the infected injuries. So like something like that could have it said it was wrong, but it was like, but something like that could have been at least a little bit like something based in reality.
dead bodies dissolve. Near the Indus River, there's two mountains, one of which attracts iron and the other repels it. So if you had iron nails
like,
in your
no.
shoes, you couldn't step on the one or off the other. In Argyripa, the grania plant doesn't grow, and in Crustuminium, the hay springs up
Sam going easy on him because noxious can mean a lot of things. Maybe it's just shitty hay.
already rotten. Let's turn now to the tides. We know these are caused by the moon, and to a lesser degree the sun. Moon overhead, they go up, moon on the other side, they go
Okay.
down. A large open ocean is needed to manifest this power of the planet, which is why neither lakes nor rivers have tides. In
I mean, I feel like Lake Michigan has tides, babe. Like the Great Lake, like there's definitely times when the water comes up a little higher and when it goes a little lower, and there, some amount of tide, a little bit of tide.
Britain, the tide rises 120 feet. The tides do a full cycle twice a day, except in Euboea, where they do it 7 times. Aristotle said that animals only die when the tide is ebbing, but really that's only true of people. Watch. Seawater is salty, and that's because the sun evaporates all the mild, sweet water while leaving all the gross crap that ends up in the ocean behind. A number of estimates have been made for the depth of
Didn't know that. Apparently it's right. Okay. The Mediterranean bottoms out at about 3 miles, but 1.5 is actually a good estimate for the majority of it. The actual opens get deeper, of course.
the ocean, ranging from 15 stadia to who the hell knows. Seawater is also heavier than fresh water, which is why things float better on it. As with everything in nature, bodies of water have no shortage of weird stuff they get down to. Some
That's
rivers
true.
actually run underground before bursting
That's
out again elsewhere. We
true.
know they're the same river because if you chuck stuff in one, it comes out the other side. There's a lake in
There's like a really dangerous one in Britain that like kills people instantly.
Judea where nothing sinks, at all. In Dodona, there's a spring called the Fountain of Jupiter, and though the water there is cold as ice, it'll relight extinguished torches held near its surface.
Oh,
the river
dang.
Melas turns sheep black when they drink from it, while the Cephasus makes them turn white, the Peneus turns them
Okay,
black
sure.
again, and then the Xanthus makes them red. The
Okay,
river
sure.
Astaces makes the horses there produce black milk, which the people use for food. There's a spring in the island of Andros that tastes like wine. The river Lyncestis tastes sour but gets you drunk like wine, and in
All right,
Arcadia,
all
there's
of
a
this is
river called the
wrong.
Styx that kills you instantly. In Labr-
I mean, the Styx, like, that's just like the Greek. It's in the underworld, right? I don't know. Some of this is like, wait, did he like hear some old stories of like old tales and think that people were meaning them literally? Like some of that might be that.
Brosis, there are 3 springs, all of which also kill you instantly, but in a much less painful fashion than the 6. That's enough of those. From here we turn at last to the 4th element, fire. In Samosata, along the Euphrates, there's a big pool of this flammable mud they call maltha. It sticks to everything it touches, and if you set
tar.
it on fire, even water won't extinguish it. Romans invaded these lands long ago, and the people there poured the stuff on our soldiers, cooked them in their armor like a crab. There are certain places
Like a
in the world
crab.
where fire's always burning. The summits of many mountains are home to such flames, as are the occasional
Alright.
crater and field. And
So far, it seems like he's better at fire than he is at water. Like he got all the stuff about water, like a lot of the lakes and river stuff really wrong. He's got a lot of this fire stuff right.
of course, the sun and stars are no exception. What a weird thing these are. Like, fire needs fuel to spread and sustain itself. So what is it that can feed these flames without destroying itself in the process? There's a thinker for ye. But besides these
And
guys,
he's not
where
gonna
else
try
does
to answer
fire
it.
come
All right.
from? You got fires lit by men, for one. Certain stones have fire in them innately. There's the fire you get from rubbing sticks together, and there's the fire in clouds that causes lightning.
Yeah.
You can
I mean, he was a little bit off on that, but like everything else.
You can also use concave mirrors to focus sunlight into fire. Highly potent, do be careful. Sudden fires also manifest occasionally in the human body. One time, when 6th king of Rome, Servius Tullius, was a child, he was just sleeping there when suddenly flames shot out of his freaking head. I've got
Dang,
more
okay. All right. I mean, spontaneous human combustion, apparently, forever. People have been telling that kind of story for a long time. This translation is just as blue-blowing to read as it is to watch.
fun facts like this to drop later, but it's about time we wrap this book up. And what better way than by sizing up the entire globe? So I ran some numbers, added some distances, checked some other people's answers. I've got some estimates here on the width of the inhabited world, from the mouth of the Ganges in India to the port city of Gades in the west. These all fall around 9,000 miles, give or take 1,000. But like I said before, the uninhabited Earth extends far beyond that. Eratosthenes was a really bright dude, and he put the circumference at 31,500
And the actual is 24,901. Okay, pretty close.
miles. What a big, wild world it is. Just how wild? You'll have to tune in next time for books 3 through 6, all of which are titled An Account of Countries, Nations, Seas, Towns,
Oh,
Havens,
good.
Mountains, Rivers, Distances, and Peoples who now exist or formerly existed. But for
Oh,
now, I'm
wow,
Pliny the
that's
Elder,
not
et
confusing.
gratias ago tibi, qui aspectandi.
Bye.
Pope's sitting at home fuming at my pronunciation right there.
I think the Pope would be okay with it. All right. Anyway, that was okay. That was fun. I feel like there were some things in there that I like legitimately did not know. Like I don't know what I thought thunder was. I really don't know what I thought it was. I know when I was a kid, I thought it was because clouds hit each other. Like that's what I had decided thunder was when I was a child. I mean, again, there's some things in there that like I did not know now, and I'm like, all right, I learned some stuff today. I hope you learned some stuff today, and didn't get too annoyed by me and my sick brain. I hope that he does more of these. This was fun, and I'll see you all in the next one.